Hey everyone, my name is Ethan Etchart. Today I'm going to be talking about why exercise feels great. So I'm going to be talking about some prominent chemicals in our bodies that are affected by exercise and allow us to feel better during and after exercise, and as well as how they can promote positive growth outside of the exercising state. And I'm making this video because I've always wanted to know and understand what was great about exercise, because when I was playing sports growing up, or when I was in the military, working out, training in high school, I always knew that exercise was good for me, and it was hard, and a lot of times it was super hard, but I realized that there was a lot of potential and a lot of science to kind of uncover and understand. And so the first chemical I'm going to talk about is dopamine, and this is the chemical for motivation. It's to pursue things outside of our current grasp. It's the motivation to reach career and personal goals, pleasure, mating, etc. And so Dr. Andrew Huberman, who is a famous, renowned neuroscientist and has this awesome podcast that's called The Huberman Lab, he talks about dopamine frequently in his shows and podcasts he's been on, and he calls dopamine the biological currency. Basically meaning that with dopamine, this is our currency for doing everything biologically in our life. Like when we're low on dopamine, things aren't going well, we're depressed, we're lonely, we have no motivation. Whereas when we have high dopamine, we are extremely motivated to do the things we need to, and we're just gonna do everything we can to make our lives easier. And so what physical activity does is it positively influences the baseline levels of dopamine and the overall application and the usage of dopamine. So basically meaning that when you exercise, you're gonna feel motivated to become a better person in your life, your professional life, your career. It's going to make you motivated to exercise again. And this is why it's important to continue to do this, because then you're just building up your baseline levels for dopamine. And this is going to make you less anxious. And so this reinforces the statement or the idea that exercise is going to make you more productive, because you're going to have more dopamine in your system, higher baseline levels, and that's what's going to lead you to do whatever else you want in your life. Is if you're a professional or you're an artist, whatever it is you do, and you want to be focused, you need dopamine to do that. And so exercise will help you, give you that to go, dopamine. So the next one I'm going to talk about is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. So BDNF, it's a super important gene for brain health. It promotes the health, the survival of neurons in the brain. It promotes the generation of new brain cells, which is a process called neurogenesis. And so BDNF is increased during exercise. And this is how exercise can make our brains stay cognitively healthier. And so exercise is awesome because it is going to allow your brain to adapt to the stimulus by making more brain cells that synthesize, optimize, and survive longer by the means of the brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. And the research even shows that the more you exercise as you're older, if you're susceptible to things like Alzheimer's, if you exercise, you're gonna have more BDNF expression, which is going to promote the health and the success of your hippocampus in your brain, which your hippocampus is where you learn how to store memories and learn in general. And so that's why it's important as you get older. Also, BDNF and exercise have a link with depression. It has been shown in studies that those with higher rates of depression, they have lower expression of BDNF and lower exercise reported activity levels, versus when you look at the opposite, those who are exercising, they have way higher levels of BDNF and way lower levels of depression. And so this is extremely awesome to understand and very valuable, especially as you get older, or you're just looking to become more intelligent and wise in your careers, in your family life, especially as you're aging. This is what's going to allow you to keep your mind sharp. So the next thing I want to talk about is the endocannabinoid system, or how exercise can make you feel high. And so there are two endocannabinoids that are released during exercise. They're called anandamide and 2-AG. So traditionally in the literature, it was believed that the endorphins that were released during exercise is what's associated with the pleasure and exercise. But actually now the research is showing that the pleasure that we are feeling during exercise is actually the activation of the endocannabinoid system. And so what we can take away from the endocannabinoid system is that when we exercise, we're gonna have more endocannabinoids circulating in our bloodstream, and it's gonna relieve pain and also allow us to feel more pleasure during intense workouts, which is also going to help decrease depressive symptoms and promote a healthier relationship with exercise, due to the pleasurable experiences that are happening during the challenging activities. And so the next chemical I'm going to talk about is acetylcholine, which is involved in states of focus as it pertains to learning and encoding memories. And although exercise has an acute effect on acetylcholine, which basically just means it's affecting you right in the moment of exercising, you're going to be experiencing high levels of focus during exercise. And so you understand how your acetylcholine system works through the gym. And so you'll notice if you're someone that's been into working out for a while, you'll be like, wow, when I get in the gym, I'm just like in the zone, I'm focused, boom, like I'm ready to do the next thing. That's your acetylcholine system going, firing the whole time. But this also leaves some benefits in the long term because we're going to enhance the synaptic plasticity and memory formation in our brain while we're exercising, which is a big indicator for why exercise is so important in our careers and our productivity and the longevity of our brain performance. So acetylcholine, it can open these states in the mind to enhance neuroplasticity with the help from other neuromodulators. So acetylcholine is a less sexy but extremely important chemical that is influenced by exercise in the way we focus. So another system that's activated by exercise is serotonin, which is the chemical of peace, contentment, and satiety. And so when we're high on serotonin, we feel good, we feel calm, content, low anxiety, we're full if we ate food. And so serotonin is an awesome chemical. It's really important. It's produced by our brain and our gut, and it's released when our body feels content and peaceful with our current situation. And so those who suffer from depression, anxiety, they possess lower levels of serotonin. And so if serotonin is low, you're going to feel agitated, maybe you're starving, you're going to feel lonely. And so serotonin is extremely important. There's many studies that show that exercise influences people's moods positively, and the psychological research and the neuroscience research shows that exercise affects serotonin levels the same way that depression medications do, such as SSRIs or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And if you're wondering what SSRIs do, they do what the name says. They're serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So they allow the serotonin that's released in your body to be available longer in your system, so they're connecting with other cells and you're feeling serotonin longer. So what it's doing is blocking the reuptake of it to be absorbed in the body. And like I said about exercise, is that exercise just is going to do that naturally. And of course, there's going to be people that are going to need SSRIs in certain situations. But of course, if we can do everything naturally and have a holistic, practical approach to our health by the means of exercise, and that is the way to go. And this is kind of the beautiful side of fitness and exercise, where it's not just about how we look, and vanity, that type of thing. It's more about how we feel mentally. It's gonna make us feel more at peace and content with who we are. The last system I want to talk about is epinephrine, or adrenaline as it's also referred to in scientific literature. And so the typical explanation of epinephrine has to do with the autonomic nervous system, or when we're extremely stressed out in our body, we sense it through our brain, and then it's going to start a cascade of hormones that's going to make our adrenal glands release epinephrine. We're going to have more glucose ready in our muscles to fire. Our heart's going to be pumping harder, and that's why we're going to be able to think faster. This is like the extreme application of epinephrine. So epinephrine, it's made or manufactured from the dopamine molecule also. So this is going to be highly associated with generating energy or states of readiness. So it's kind of like you getting ready to do things. That's your epinephrine. And that's why when you were super stressed out, we have way high amounts of epinephrine because we need it now. We need to be focused. And when adrenaline's low, that's when we're like thinking slow, our bodies are slow. We don't really need to do anything. That's basically how epinephrine kind of works in our body. But epinephrine has an interesting application in sports and in exercise too. And a good example of the application of epinephrine through sports would be, like, imagine a football player when he's chasing down someone that's about to like pick six a touchdown. That's a good application of epinephrine because it's like, whoa, this is an emergency, go, 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 go. So it's going to make you perform a lot better. And of course, you're going to kind of have like a little crash, adrenal fatigue, after you play like an extreme sport or a game that was intense emotionally, physically, you're going to feel really exhausted from it. But it's interesting because epinephrine during the game, it might help you out to make a huge play or something like that. And so exercise can teach you how to use these systems to your advantage. And I've noticed this a lot in swimming. So I haven't really been swimming long, only about a year. But when you're losing control of your breath, you're getting stressed out, and you can feel your epinephrine just going too crazy, and you can't handle it. And then you're like, so I've realized it totally applies in swimming, because you have to be so controlled, so precise, and you have to just be diligent and focused, but also work hard too. And this is where you can see athletes like Tom Brady or Kobe Bryant or maybe a UFC fighter. This is like where they're learning how to dial in. They feel the epinephrine, they're nervous, but they know how to handle it, and they're using it to their advantage if they need to. And so that's a cool thing about epinephrine, is that it's super important in everything we do in our lives. Like, our stress is going to dictate our success. And you can see it totally applied in sports in a very, very visual manner. Those who can't handle their epinephrine and their stress, they're the losers on the field. And those who can, those who can stay dialed in and use their bodies the way they need to, that's success. And I spoke about this in a prior video, but we need to understand that the overusage of epinephrine through constantly living in survival, stressful states is terrible for our health and our long-term health especially. And so what I want you guys to take away from epinephrine and exercise is that when it's activated and we can train it through certain workouts, you can learn how to control it. You're going to be in a super adrenalized state sometimes during workouts that are tough or in games, and it's important to be able to adopt a better skill set for managing that adrenaline response outside of physical activity too. So if you can manage your stress response during highly intensive moments in sports, then it's going to help you understanding how to manage it outside in the real world too. And so that's why I wanted to mention epinephrine, because yeah, we're not going to be playing in the Super Bowl, or maybe we're not going to the Olympics, but guess what? We're going to be doing important, stressful things too. We're going to be running businesses. We're going to be becoming professionals. And there's going to be moments where we're going to be standing in a room, or we're going to be at a business meeting. We're going to have to speak up and say the things that make us have the most success. And if we can't handle that epinephrine, that stress response, we're going to fail. And so this is why it's important to challenge ourselves physically and understand how these systems work in our body. And so to summarize, we talked about epinephrine, we talked about the endocannabinoid system, acetylcholine, brain-derived neurotropic factor. We talked about dopamine, and we talked about acetylcholine. Those 6 systems are going to play a very important part on the way exercise is going to make your life better or improve your way of handling your stress throughout the day. And I love studying these topics. I'm a personal trainer. I'm diving deeper into the sciences all the time. So I love learning these things and sharing with others, because I think it really is important for people to understand what's going on with their bodies and their well-being. And that's going to make a bigger impact on how we feel overall as a global population. The more we can understand the way our bodies work and how we feel, and just live more optimally. And so I hope this video helped you understand the way your body can be influenced by exercise in a positive manner, because this can really make a huge impact on the way you progress in your life, your career, spiritually, mentally, all those things. And so I've always wanted to understand the way my body works, and like why I feel lazy, why I feel motivated, why I feel bored, why I'm focused, why I feel sad, why I feel happy. And so this is an interesting way to understand how exercise can make your body feel better. And so I hope you like this video. Please give me a like, a subscribe. I'm here to share information about how to understand and optimize your well-being.